Hello everyone, this is Sandeep here. Welcome once again to my channel. I'm sure you have seen a lot of videos of Dubai realtors making videos about one particular project, selling about that particular project. But I'm sure you might have seen very few videos who talk about the after sales. Basically, what happens after you get the possession of your property or the property is handed over to you. You as an homeowner or an investor, you buy the property to either rent it or to sell it. So in today's video, we are going to talk about the process which you should be considering while the renting of the property or selling of the property. What are the factors you should be considering to make the entire process of either renting or selling a smooth and hassle-free? So let's begin. So in this part, first we will talk about what are the factors you should consider very seriously before renting out your property, because the entire process is very complicated if you don't give attention to these things. And the first and foremost important thing is the payment modes. Now in Dubai, you have a standard payment modes in the rental is basically you either can go for one check or 4 check, which is the maximum. There are people who offer you more checks, which is basically 6 checks, 10 checks. There are some examples where people offer 12 check also. We understand there are financial obligations for the tenants, but at the end of the day, you as an investor should make yourself secure, because there were instances where the homeowners were offered substantially higher rental values on account of giving more number of checks. For example, I had one of my own investor who had a studio apartment in Business Bay, one of the buildings in Business Bay. The market rate were around 50,000 for a studio apartment there, but he got offered 58,000 on one condition, that the payment will be made in 4 checks. Now that was a property management company which offered this deal to the investor. What happened after that was scary, because the property management company then rented that studio to one of the individuals on one check for 50,000 dirhams. Now what happened after 6 months is the first 2 payments got cleared, and once the third check was deposited, it got bounced, and then later we realized that property management company has fled from Dubai. Now in this case, the homeowner, the landlord, was in fix, because the tenant who was staying has made the payment in one check to the property management company. That tenant had a legal tenancy contract and a jari, so we cannot evict that tenant because that tenant has made all the payments. On the other hand, the property management company is no more to trace, so the landlord could not do anything. So for the next 6 months, the landlord was sitting with zero money. So what I would suggest is, in case you are renting your property, make sure you go with as less checks as possible, 1 to 4. If at all you want to go for higher number of checks, do your risk analysis and make yourself secure. Now, second aspect that you should have in place or you should be following very strictly is the SOP. Now, when I say SOP, you all know SOP, what SOP is. There should be a system in place of the renting out property. For example, you get the security deposit check, sign the contract, clear the security deposit check in your account. Then once you clear the first check into your account, then do the key handover. There are instances where you get special requests from the tenants. I'm not saying all the tenants are like this, but there are instances where the tenants have made special requests to the landlord saying that, okay, you give us the key and I will make the payment or I will do the transfer later on. But then once you do the transfer, once you do the key handover, then you really can't have anything but to start following up with the tenant regarding the payment. Now in this case also, you can go legally, but again it involves a lot of process and formalities, which I'm sure no one wants to do it. So make sure you have a very strict SOP in place and follow that process to make sure the entire process of renting your property goes out smoothly. Now the third important factor that you should be considering is terms and conditions. Now, I'm sure all the agents that you are renting your property from, they have a terms and conditions, and addendum we call it in our language, to attach with the tenancy contract. Make sure you go through the terms and conditions very specifically. Make sure you have all the aspects or all the concerns of yours. Basically, you might have a concern with the check bounce, because there are people or there are instances where the check gets bounced. How you are going to tackle that situation? Standard solution to that is we generally charge 1,000 dirham for a check bounce. If the tenant doesn't make the payment in next 5 days, then you can have a clause to evict or give the notice to the tenant for the eviction. Now, another thing that you should look for in your terms and condition is the maintenance. Now, when I say maintenance, it's basically there are instances where small things gets damaged within the property, water leakage or AC not working. So we generally categorize these things into minor maintenance and major maintenance. Generally, a major maintenance is the responsibility of the landlord and minor maintenance is the responsibility of the tenant. So make sure you have the specific clause in the tenancy agreement where you specify a particular amount. For example, we generally keep 500 dirhams for a 1-bedroom apartment, 1,000 dirhams for a 2-bedroom apartment, around 1,000 dirhams for a villa, 1,000 to 2,000 dirhams for a villa as well. So below 500 dirhams in a 1-bedroom apartment, anything happens, that's the responsibility of the tenant. Above 500 is the responsibility of the landlord. Make sure you have these things specified in the terms and conditions. The another important thing that you should be looking out in the tenancy agreement is the rental increment in the next year. A lot of landlords don't know that Dubai has a rule in place wherein you can have the rental increase in the value only as per the rental index calculator. So make sure you have that clause included in the terms and conditions, in which it is followed by the land department, or the general practice is to follow that, but make sure you have that specified in the contract. So these are the aspects you as a tenant should look for in the terms and condition of the tenancy contract. Now, last part of the rental process is to hand over the property. Now, there were instances I personally have faced wherein we hand over the property to the tenant in a very neat and clean condition, but we don't get the same apartment back when the tenant moves out of the property. Now, one solution for this problem is you have that specified in the terms and condition that it is tenant's responsibility to hand over the property as received. Additionally, what we generally do is we make a video at the time of the handover of the property and we send it to the tenant saying that, okay, this is the condition you have received the property, please confirm, and at the time of giving it back to the landlord, we expect you to give it in the same manner. If not, there will be charges implied on you to get the property in the same condition. We make sure that we hand over the property to the new tenant, freshly painted, deep cleaned, AC cleaned and everything. So we expect the same thing back when you are moving out. So as an investor or as an homeowner, as a landlord, you should make these things clear with the tenant before even they move in, which will make your entire renting out process smooth. So these are few aspects you should be looking at when you are renting out the property, just to make sure that the entire process becomes smooth and there are no headaches later on. I hope you enjoyed this part of the video. In part 2 of this video, we are going to talk about what are the factors you should look out for when you are selling your property once you get the handover. So stay tuned and keep an eye for the part 2 of this series. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video.